is really important that Lucas Paquetá has been supported by West Ham up to now, but I think the support has been twofold, and I think one of them has got to change now. I don't want us to stop supporting him, but I think in terms of us supporting him by allowing him to play football for West Ham has probably got to stop now. Yes, for him, but more importantly now for the club. I think there comes a point where supporting somebody is all well and good, but if it starts to damage you, which I think it's doing now, then I think that probably has to stop. Just so as you know, I think we should try and still support him and help out if he needs any help out with his legal team. I think we should still support him morally. I think it's really important that just as a club, we get behind him and we let him know that he's not alone. I think that's one thing. I think him continuing to play is quite another. Now, the reason I'm saying this is things have changed in the last day, and that is that Paquetá has got to appear tomorrow in a Brazilian investigation into his betting irregularities, which are based around him getting yellow cards and people winning money off the back of those yellow cards. The fact that people won money over in Paquetá Island and back where in his home is not beyond doubt. That's not it. They won the money. What is being argued, as I understand it, is whether Paquetá gave them the information to say he was going to get yellow cards in X, Y, and Z games. That's what's being disputed. Okay. However, tomorrow he's got to answer accusations to the Brazilian arm of the investigation. Basically, he's currently being investigated by the English FA. They've added 2 more additional charges. He is counter. I don't know if is he suing them. I don't know what. I honestly don't know what the word is, but he's asked for them to be under investigation because he feels that the FA have leaked private information about the case. So he's contesting that. There is a Spanish investigation, which is a separate one, which is actually to do with Paquetá's uncle and cousin betting on La Liga games. But I do believe that also at some point the suggestion is that Paquetá will be implicated in that as well, even if he hasn't been already. And then you've got the Brazilian investigation. The Brazilian investigation is still into him getting carded and possibly people winning money. This could turn into a criminal investigation. It's an absolute mess. But he has been, I don't know if subpoenaed's the right word, but he's been forced to appear virtually via Zoom call at the trial tomorrow, at the investigation tomorrow, which is being held in Brazil. This is not good. It just got worse, and it was bad anyway. And I just don't think as a player he's fit for purpose anymore. And West Ham have supported him, and I think we were right to. And at the start, you don't want to take that football away from him. Because if you actually look earlier on, it's actually last season, wasn't earlier on this season, when he was sort of almost denied when the allegations first came out. And I think the Brazilian FA, to a certain extent, stepped away and they said they didn't include him in Brazil squads. And that hurt him, that hurt Paquetá. He loves playing football and loved playing for Brazil. And you saw how much that meant to him when the new coach came in and said, no, I want this guy back in the squad. We're going to invite him back into the warm bosom of Brazilian football. And he loved it. And it felt like him playing football was a way of lifting the weight of the world off his shoulders. And that's great. I suspect, actually, I think he got a booking. He's suspended for one of the Brazil's next 2 internationals, but I suspect he won't be picked for the squad anyway. And but my point is, I understand it's important for him to play football, but West Ham are not getting the benefit anymore. We're really not. In fact, I would argue that Lucas Paquetá is a bit of a hindrance, actually. And we're just not. The trouble with these players and players like him, who are geniuses and they're absolutely brilliant, is you're relying on that moment of magic, them to do something that other players can't do to unlock the opposition defence. It stopped happening. It doesn't happen anymore. I'm looking back on the Man United game. I can remember, obviously Jarrod Bowen's making a bit of a habit of doing really good cutbacks and playing little low crosses into the box. I can remember plenty of them. I can remember Wan-Bissaka getting down the right wing. And his crosses didn't work out, but certainly I remember him trying to put crosses across. Somerville did a couple of really good crosses. Emerson. Basically, my point is, I can recall in recent games us attacking from the flanks. What I'm really struggling to recall is one ball through the middle from Lucas Paquetá that's unlocked the defence. He's stopped being able to do it. I can remember plenty of other stuff. I can remember silly red cards. I can recall. Basically, I feel sometimes watching him play, and I certainly feel this is the case against Manchester United, that he's almost asking to be sent off. Now, that's a hell of a thing for me to say, and I hope it's not the case. But I can only wonder. I did look and I think, mate, are you almost saying just get me out of here? Get me out of here. Is it the right thing for him to be in the public eye anymore? I don't know. I really don't know. I suspect it's not the right thing for Paquetá, but I think he's gone a stage further than that. I don't think it's the right thing for West Ham anymore. Because whatever we're wanting to happen through the middle has stopped. The beautiful pass, I don't know. Look, I'm not a genius. How would I know about this stuff? But they say that they're a moment ahead. They're a couple of seconds ahead. These genius players. They're always called intelligent, aren't they? They see, not only do they see the pass and execute it, by the way. Possibly you can still see it, but it's a couple of seconds late and it's not being executed. But also, it's that way of reading the game where it's a little bit ahead of their marker in midfield or than the defenders. That's what makes these players special. That's what made Lucas Paquetá a £50 million player. It's gone. We don't have that guy anymore. He can do the ABC stuff. He can do the paint by numbers stuff. But the brilliance is no longer there. And if he's not providing brilliance, and there's any number of players who can play in midfield and do, an ABC type job. And quite frankly, what would you think is more likely going into the Nottingham Forest game? Do you think it's more likely that Lucas Paquetá gets an excellent assist, a stroke of genius assist, or Thomas Souček arrives late in the box and scores a header or scores? It's the latter, and it is, and I know that. I don't even need to ask the question. But the majority of you, if you had to put a fiver on one of the other two, one of them happening, it would be the Souček one. I'm not suggesting that we've got brilliant options there. I certainly don't feel that Carlos Soler is one of them. But maybe that is the case. But I certainly don't think that Paquetá can play there or should be chosen. I don't want to say put him out of his misery, because I do think it will come as a bit of a blow to him being dropped from the team. Maybe it's that and only that that's keeping him going. But at some point we have to sort of look after West Ham, and I'm not placing the blame solely upon him for our first half performance, because I think a lot of it is tactical. I think you could by equal measure, Soler was obviously replaced and things got better on that left hand side. Maybe it was that made the difference, but undoubtedly when Lucas Paquetá was taken off, West Ham improved. And as I say, it's not like we became less creative when he was off the pitch. I thought we had more of a threat, and maybe if you're going to be playing a composition of Edson Alvarez, Guido Rodriguez and Thomas Souček, that they can give you more of a creative grounding centrally than even when Lucas Paquetá's on the pitch, then I don't think that's good. There was always the argument that you needed Paquetá to get the best out of Emerson. I'm not so sure anymore. I think Emerson still looked good when Somerville came on. Actually, I do wonder if there's a little partnership there, and we've certainly got to at least allow time for that to develop. There were a couple of neat exchanges between Emerson and Paquetá, but I felt that a lot of that was because of Emerson rather than Paquetá. As Emerson, I feel, has found his form now and possibly doesn't need Paquetá. I think probably Paquetá needs Emerson a lot more than Emerson needs Paquetá, if that makes any sense at all. I think he needs to be taken out of the firing line. And not only that, I think West Ham need to probably start planning for life without him. And I don't mean Carlos Soler. If that's the... I don't want to say too many negative things about Carlos Soler. But put it this way, I'm very, very pleased that he is an option to buy rather than an obligation to buy, because £27 million, I wouldn't do it at 17. I would. Do you know what? I wouldn't probably do it at £7 million at the moment. He has the opportunity to show something more. And I suspect Lopetegui won't change any of this stuff against Nottingham Forest. I suspect Paquetá plays, but I don't think this is a good situation. I don't think it's going to end well for Paquetá. I think if I was looking at the investigation from an outsider's point of view, I think I would not believe that it would have a favourable outcome for Paquetá. I think if over my West Ham hat on, as a West Ham fan, as a West Ham supporter, as a Paquetá supporter, I'm hoping that he's innocent. I quite like the fact that he and his legal team have sort of robustly challenged the FA, because the FA appear to have been leaking stuff. And I think the FA probably have been doing that as well. And so they should be taken to task if that is the case. However, I don't particularly want to spend any time talking about the evidence here of what has actually happened in terms of the yellow cards, in terms of the betting on them, and in terms of, any involvement Paquetá may or may not have had. And he denies it all. Let's just make that point. But it does not look good. It does not look good. And I could not say with any level of certainty that he is going to be proven innocent. I really couldn't. It's only the West Ham fan in me, it's only the Lucas Paquetá supporter that makes me feel that way. I feel if I was watching this situation unfold and play out at a different club of which I had no interest in, I'd probably be viewing it quite differently, and particularly viewing the outcome quite differently. But I just think this latest turn of events with him having to appear, I know it's only via Zoom call, but again, his legal team tried to get it stopped. They tried to get the hearing, but not stopped, but postponed, rescheduled, because in their own words, this could have a negative impact on him basically being able to play. I paraphrase, but that's more or less, I think, what they were saying. But I agree. I think it will. And that's a negative impact. So what? He's going to be play even worse than he has been recently. I think it's a hell of an ask. I think you'd have to have really strong sort of mental fortitude to be able to come through this and put on a barnstorming, creative display of footballing excellence when West Ham play Nottingham Forest at the weekend. I think that's a really, really tall order. So I think for that, I'd actually like him to be taken out the firing line now for footballing reasons. As much as anything else, we've done all the other stuff. Keep supporting him, keep letting him know, that the club are behind him, that the fans are behind him, and I think both those things are true. But I believe there comes a point where you have to separate the first team from this stuff, and it's not. Well, I don't think it's not West Ham's fault that we're in this situation. Certainly, I don't think it's going away quickly, and I think the best thing that West Ham can do is probably take Paquetá out of the team. And then maybe, just maybe, have a little look at January and see if something can be done to try and get somebody, a new creative hub, into the team. Or, as I've said before, maybe look at George Urphy, or even who's doing really, really good things at West Ham youth team at the moment, is Dan Rigger, who I'd never thought I'd say this, but, a 17, 18-year-old kid would come in and probably be more creative than the £50 million Brazilian, but I just think it's the weight of the world on his shoulders. I'm not sure he can necessarily do it. I don't think, by the way, I don't think Lopetegui's going to do that. I've not seen anything from Lopetegui to suggest he's the man that is going to start, giving responsibility to youth players. So I don't think that's going to happen, in which case probably needs to do something in the transfer window to bring someone else in. And I think Lucas Paquetá, give him some time out of the limelight and let him try and fight this thing.